Okay, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Maureen Maloney. I am a documentary filmmaker. Some of you might know me. I am currently working on a film called Voice of Vanilla about vanilla farmers in Madagascar. And so I organized this event because I'm unable to go back to Madagascar right now because of everything going on in the world. And even though I can't continue working on the film, I really wanted to continue to achieve the goals that I set forth in the film. And I thought, since we're all stuck at home right now, I could bring a little bit of Madagascar into your homes. And so before I get into the specific goals that I have for the film and what we're going to get into here tonight, I just thought I'd show you a quick teaser, a little 2-minute teaser for the film that I'm creating, Voice of Vanilla.
I commission kan munje avant vempele commission lena steno vidina niko no kumariko pri la kwanya kana
we have to learn how to see on a long run vision the consequences of what we're doing now.
Okay, so yeah, that's the 2-minute trailer. And for this film, I have 3 main goals that I'm trying to accomplish. One is to shine light on the Malagasy culture. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Madagascar, and I really fell in love with the country. But when I returned, I realized that many Americans don't actually know anything about Madagascar, and a lot of them don't even think that people live there on the island. Thanks to a certain animated movie, most people just think of a cartoon when they think of Madagascar. Secondly, I wanted to show how the people of Madagascar are being impacted by global forces, especially things like climate change, and the unique challenges that women face. For many of us in the US, climate change is sort of this faraway reality that might impact us one day. But for a lot of the people in Madagascar, it is a reality that they've been living with for decades already. And finally, I really wanted to build connections among people around the world. There's actually a Malagasy proverb, and it says, Sihi be lambanana ni ambani lancha, and it means all of those who live under the sky are woven together like one big mat. And this is really true. And because of this, I think it's important that we understand people and connect with people all over the world. So with that, I'm bringing you 6 great speakers giving Pachakacha style presentations. And if you've never heard of Pachakacha, It consists of 20 slides, and presenters have 20 seconds to talk about each slide. So they're very fast presentations, and it's just a fast and fun way to learn new information. You can ask questions in the Q&A boxes, so feel free to fill up the chat. I see it looks like you've got a few things in there. Cool. And oh, we've got sound issues. I'm not sure how to increase the sound. Okay, looks like that's better. Good, good, good. And in between each presentation, the speakers will be able to answer a few of those questions. So if you just type them in there, I'll ask them to the speakers. And if you don't get your question answered, don't worry. You can continue the discussion on the Facebook event page, and we'll have some answers there for you. So on to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Devon Hibbard, the CEO of an amazing organization that provides business training for women, helping women all over the world break the cycle of extreme poverty. The Street Business School gives women the skills and confidence to change their lives. And I have a challenge for all of you watching tonight. I want to raise funds to send 10 women to the Street Business School. I'm gonna share my screen with you here again. So, here we go. We're asking the community of people watching today to help 10 women attend the Street Business School, triple their incomes, and change their lives. In order to do this, you just have to go to streetbusinessschool.org/give. And for every $346 donated, that sends one woman to the Street Business School. A gift of $100 provides 3 business training sessions, and a gift of $48 provides a woman with personalized coaching to help her believe in herself. There's also another way that you can help out, and that is by sharing any nonprofits and any NGOs that you know of that are doing really great work. This will help the Street Business School expand their impact into new communities. So if you know of names of NGOs doing great work, please share that with the Street Business School. You can email Tabitha, Tabatha at streetbusinessschool.org. And I'm going to be giving you all some updates through of the progress that we all have towards sending our 10 women to Street Business School. I'll update you about halfway through the program, and then again at the end. Empowering women has been shown to improve the world in so many ways. So if you're looking for a way to have a big impact, then definitely help us send 10 women to the Street Business School. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this on to Devon Hibbard, who will give her presentation.
Thank you, Maureen. Can you unshare your screen so I can share mine? Can y'all see that? So Maureen has asked me to speak and kick this evening off, speaking both about this moment in time as well as the importance of economic empowerment as a key element to creating transformation, both in Madagascar and around the world. I believe that economic empowerment can end extreme poverty in our lifetimes. And I believe that the power of belief is important to that. So over the last 30 years, I've lived and worked around the world, started 2 organizations serving women, and I've seen poverty, triumph, sorrow, and the amazing determination of the human spirit. And I've seen the transformational power of belief. Belief is defined as trust, faith, or confidence in something or someone. So listen to those words: trust, faith, confidence. We believe with our soul. We know with our heads, but belief is something in our guts. So for the next 6 minutes, I want to ask all of you to believe with me. Meet Ruth and her son Bashir. As a single mother, Ruth used to work every day just to make ends meet. When she found work washing her neighbor's laundry, she and her son would eat one meal a day. And on days that she didn't, she would listen to her son cry himself to sleep and try to ignore her own hunger pains. Then she met Street Business School, the nonprofit I run, and she worked really hard to change her life. And she opened a vegetable stall that allowed her to increase her income from $22 to $177 a month. Transformational. When I later asked Ruth the most important thing she had learned, she said, Obu Tenyoma, which literally translates as not underestimating myself. We've learned at Street Business School that the most important thing we do is to believe. We believe in women until they can believe in themselves. So Street Business School is a program that combines business training and belief to help women start small businesses. We provide 8 business modules designed and targeted to the needs of women living in poverty, many of whom have not completed primary school. This knowledge is supported by coaching and alumni storytelling to help women see and claim their innate capacity. The women in our program go from an average of $1.35 a day when they begin to $4.19 a day 2 years later, meaning they've literally lifted their families out of poverty. They can eat meals, send their kids to school, and get the medical care they need. So we had this incredible program creating transformational results in Uganda, and yet I knew that 700 million people on the planet live in extreme poverty. A huge global need on one hand, a proven solution on the other hand. We needed to scale. What, you might ask, was the problem? It turns out that the problem was me. I was afraid. I didn't believe in myself, because it's really easy to talk about how important it is for women to believe in themselves as long as we're talking about other women. So 5 years ago, I did something terrifying. I declared out loud into the world that it was my intention to help 1 million women lift their families out of poverty. It turns out that's easier to say than to do. And those next few years were really challenging. But I'm proud to say that today, Street Business School is active in 21 countries around the world. We do this through a powerful social franchise model in which we train local NGOs how to use our model and then build in their cultural expertise to customize it to create something that's uniquely appropriate to the needs of each community. We partner with organizations with diverse missions ranging from agriculture to children's ed to climate change. And data shows that investing in women is one of the most impactful solutions out there. In fact, our 97 partners are working on 14 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, in the past few months, economic empowerment work has become more important than ever. You can see these estimates from the IMF. COVID threatens to push us back by decades in the fight against extreme poverty. So how do we respond? I think there's 3 critical factors that we have to consider. The first is putting our focus on the informal sector. Millions of people already have lost the low-wage jobs that move them out of abject poverty. And the downturn of the global GDP means that most of these jobs will take years to return, meaning people will need skills to survive in the informal sector, employing themselves. The second factor is investing in women. Study after study shows that investing in women is a proven intervention that benefits the entire family. The ILO reports that COVID jobs and income losses are disproportionately affecting women. So putting them at the center of our recovery efforts is critical. Finally, we need to help people earn money and then get out of the way. Vanilla farmers in Madagascar grow a global commodity whose pricing they have no control over. What if these women opened a secondary business selling eggs or airtime or sandals and were in charge of their own economic destiny, using their money as they see fit? We're in incredibly challenging times. The biggest global pandemic in a century, a warming climate, vast economic uncertainty that will be felt in every corner around the world. Now is when the power of belief is more important than ever. It's often the darkest times when the most dramatic change becomes possible. Perhaps this challenging global moment is the opportunity to end extreme poverty. I believe it is. What if all of you listening today believed this as well? And if we together could inspire the world to believe this? What change would be possible through that power of belief? I need your help. Today, as Maureen mentioned, there's a chance to partner with Street Business School. We welcome your referrals and your gift to make Street Business School a reality for a woman out there right now who's struggling. Street Business School is a proven solution to the current crisis, and I really welcome your support. But I need your help beyond that. I need you to believe. Thinking that something is impossible makes it so because we lack the will to try. In that moment that we change our mindset, when we begin to believe, the universe realigns towards the possible. Let's end extreme poverty. Today, I ask that all of you believe. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thank you, Devon. And yeah, helping women is such a powerful thing. And we do have a question here in the Q&A from Tuju. I think I'm saying that right. What is the training program and how can Malagasy women attend?
We would love to find a partner in Madagascar who thinks that they can amplify their own work using this economic empowerment program. It's really this beautiful combination of something that we've tested and tried for many years, combined with the local expertise of a partner organization who really understands the community. So if organizations want to find out more or individuals want to find out more, they can go to our website, which is streetbusinessschool.org, or they can write to Tabitha. If you have an idea of an NGO working in the community in Madagascar or anywhere in the world, we would love to hear from you and hear about that organization.
Yeah, so Tuju, you can help if you know nonprofits who are doing great work in Madagascar. Just email Tabitha and let her know. And anybody else watching, like I said before, if you know great organizations, just email them. All right. Okay, great. I think that looks like that is it for now. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you so much, Devon. And again, you guys, to go and make our dream of sending 10 women tonight, we can raise the money to send 10 women to the Street Business School. Just go to streetbusinessschool.org/give. All right. So our next speaker is Fidi Rasambainarivu. I think I said that right too, hopefully. Fidi is a wildlife veterinarian and researcher. He's working mainly on health and diseases at the human and wildlife interface in Madagascar. So very important work, as we've all learned. He obtained a veterinary degree from the University of Antananarivo and a PhD from the University of Missouri St. Louis. In 2018, upon his return to Madagascar, he and his wife started a laboratory and training center called Mahaliana to facilitate scientific research and wildlife conservation in Madagascar. Fidi, I will pass it off to you.
All right. Thank you very much. I am going to share my screen. And yeah, hopefully you can see that. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me at this awesome event. So I'll be talking a little bit about wildlife conservation and the initiative that we started in Madagascar. But when most people now think about Madagascar, the first thing that comes to mind are the wild animals, the lemurs, many of which are endangered. And others may think about the the baobabs or the unique plants that are found nowhere else in the world. Some may daydream about the vanilla that is flavoring our ice creams during the hot summer nights. But very few think about Madagascar as well as like this population of 26 million individuals. Many, like most of which are young and full of potential. I think the statistics now is like 60% are under 30 years old. And now what we see in Madagascar is that most of the research that is known and that is published about Madagascar is not done by Malagasy scientists. Like 90% of the research that is published and that we know about Madagascar's wildlife is led by researchers from abroad, from European or American institutions, and that is that could be a problem. And this is not just because of a lack of resources. There is a lot, like building a career in science in Madagascar is very difficult. There are many challenges. Like first, most of the universities and training centers are in the larger cities that are not accessible to many. Then even in the larger universities, like here you have a photo of the veterinary school at the University of Antananarivo, the capital. Like the lack of resources is widening the gap between the research and the scientific discoveries that Malagasy can do versus what can be done by a Western researcher. And then also, you also have not a lot of professors. There's inadequate number of professors, mentors, or role models that can inspire those young, talented scientists, Malagasy scientists, to pursue a career in science. And the implication for this, for conservation, are clear. There's this famous Senegalese conservationist and biologist that said it really well. And he said, like, in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. And that sums up like what we set to do with Marlena. And today, with the coronavirus pandemic that is hitting Madagascar and the rest of the world really hard, but Madagascar in particular, the challenges and the need for solutions that are locally led are even more important. First, because there's no flights, there are no tourists coming to Madagascar, and that means like Madagascar is losing $500 million of expected revenue that was supposed to come from tourism, as well as all the funding and all the research that is supposed to happen on Madagascar. And the consequences are that for the population, not only like living near natural habitats are dire. For example, people there's an increased pressure on the wildlife and on the natural habitats. People are cutting trees to make money. People are hunting wild animals to eat because of this loss of revenue. And our goal with Marlena is to build we wanted to build this research and training center so that we can offer these trainings and the tools and the guidance for Malagasy scientists to ask their own questions, to hopefully answer them, and also find solutions, local solutions to their to problems that they encounter on a daily basis. So, for example, we have trained more than 50 students in 1 year on use molecular biological techniques that are now crucial to detect and diagnose COVID-19. And other students like Romario Angelzarla is looking at how chicken vaccination can help lemur conservation and improving the lives of the communities near protected areas. We also have a student and a collaborator now, Santa Angelasu, who has built this dashboard that you can find www.covid19mg.org, and this dashboard is used by hundreds of people every day now to follow the disease and the evolution of the disease in Madagascar, and hopefully make informed decisions for the health and for the community. So together, as well as with the other students that are working with us, we're hopefully building this course and training this next generation of scientists that will understand and that will investigate their own backyard, understand the threats, and find solutions for the conservation of our ecosystems. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Phoebe. It's so great to hear about scientists in Madagascar getting more training and more opportunity. I'm wondering, how do you find students to work with? Or how do students find you?
So we organize multiple trainings a year to work with, for example, to learn those techniques for molecular biological techniques, and if they have an interest, if they're studying something and that matches our interest in the research, and we can find either a mentor or mentor them ourselves, we are trying to work together and guide them to investigate their interest.
Is there a way that scientists outside of Madagascar can work with more of the students and scientists that are in Madagascar?
Yes. So we have built Malina to be this exchange place as well, where we have several researchers from Duke University or from Berkeley that are coming there and that are doing their research, and in the process they may meet some of the Malagasy students that are working with us, and hopefully building a collaboration between each other. Some international scientists can come and they can absolutely work at the lab as well.
Very cool. And we did have one question come in from Gigi. Hi, Gigi. And Gigi asks, do you have a good balance of women and men in your program? Because that is a problem here in the US, where we don't have necessarily good parity between men and women in science.
That's an excellent question. And earlier I presented two of our male students, but those were the only two actually of our male students. We have right now we have 60% female that are working with us and on our on projects that they lead, and our trainings are mainly women. Like most of the 50 students that we have trained during workshops were women.
Nice. That's very exciting to hear. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Phoebe.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Jill Cubit. She is changing the way people speak and think about climate change. Jill is the co-founder of the award-winning storytelling project Dear Tomorrow and co-founder of Our Kids Climate, a network of parent-led organizations from 18 countries. Her work is featured in Writers, TED.com, Public Radio International, Parents Magazine, Vox, Grist, Yale, and the MIT Climate Collab. Cubit is focused on expanding climate arts, growing the climate parent movement, and integrating behavioral science and climate communications into program design. I'm really excited for you guys to learn about Dear Tomorrow. Thank you so much for presenting today, Jill, and I will pass it off to you.
Thank you so much, Maureen, for having me. And I'm going to share my screen. And I have a lot of things on here. Hold on. Oops, sorry. Okay. Oops. Apologies. Okay. So we're currently living through what scientists say is the largest crisis ever faced by humans. But the challenge that I'm going to talk to you tonight is not one that is currently front of mind. It's not one that we talk to with our friends or family, and we don't post very regularly on social media. I'm talking about the existential climate crisis. The science on climate has been settled for decades. We know the causes and the results, and we know it is already happening. We also know that people from developing countries, women, and communities of color are impacted first and worst. In a country like Madagascar, people are already living through climate disruption. Increased droughts, followed by more intense rainfall, lead to flooding. This has negative impacts on cash crops and food supply. This story has been repeated in countries all over the world. But for many of us, climate change still feels distant. It's happening somewhere else, or sometime far into the future. But for those of us that get it, it can feel overwhelming or make us feel powerless. I've spent 15 years working to raise awareness about the climate crisis. And for the first 8 years, I did what most educators do. I gathered information and brought in experts, scientists, and policymakers. I assumed that if I told people the scientific facts and data, people would demand action. But I learned that science and fact alone don't work for most people. And I got frustrated that we weren't making much progress. We were barely talking about it, and it was highly politicized. I watched time and time again that when a more immediate threat came, climate change was pushed aside. Then in 2013, I became a parent. Becoming a parent completely changed my perspective. I started thinking about the world that we were creating for my own son. The climate goals of the years 2030 and 2050 that had once seemed so far off and arbitrary were now the years he would be graduating from high school, or the age I am now. I became obsessed with the question of how do we inspire people to care? I discovered the answer in an unlikely place, Tasty Burger. This is where I met my co-founder, Tricia Shrum, a PhD student studying behavioral science. She told me a story that she had written a climate letter to her 10-month-old daughter, Eleanor, to read in the future. My son, Gabriel, was 18 months. It all clicked. After graduating in May 2015, I walked away from my full-time job to build Dear Tomorrow. At the time, all we had was the first version of a website, $1,000, and an idea. And what is this idea? We asked people to think about a person they love, a child, a grandchild, someone in their family. Sometimes it's even their future selves. And then we asked them to imagine that person in the year 2050, asking, what did you do to make sure I had a safe and secure future? People write letters to their children and grandchildren, their nieces and nephews, their friends, their future children, and their future selves. Some people send in a paragraph or two. Others write deep personal accounts of their greatest hopes and fears, their visions for the future, and commitments to take action. Today, we've collected 1,783 personal letters, photos, and videos from more than 50 countries. Along the way, we discovered that small groups of people started organizing. Groups of friends, communities, faith organizations, and NGOs were carrying out Dear Tomorrow in their own communities. Groups like the one shown here were using Dear Tomorrow to deepen their climate commitments, strengthen storytelling, building community, and raising awareness. We created a model where we could offer the project to any school, group, community, or organizer free of charge. In 2019, we launched our first art installation of the work on Governor's Island in New York City. The visual and sound installation featured 50 letters and voices of 33 original letter writers in a 46-minute loop. We have so much content and have only started to scratch the surface on what's possible. I have visions of events, digital campaigns, murals, projections on buildings, public readings, and art installations in communities around the world. And as I get near the end of my presentation, I wanted to share with you 3 ideas that have greatly informed our program design. One, first, people learn through stories. As Libba Bray says, there's no greater power on earth than story, and I couldn't agree more. Stories are the main way that people make sense of the world, form their opinions, and communicate with others. Second, in order for people to care more deeply about anything, it must be connected to the values and identities that they already hold. Additionally, we know that life transition moments, the birth of a child, a grandchild, starting a new job, even a global pandemic, can create opportunities for behavior change. Third, people are social beings. As much as we would like to believe that we are individuals making individual choices, we are all heavily influenced by our friends. Our actions are important not only because of themselves, but because they motivate and inspire others to join us. Over the next few days or weeks, I invite you to reflect upon what you will say when you are standing in the future and your child, your grandchild, or your niece or nephew asks you what you did. What will you say? What promise will you make? I will end with an excerpt from a 2018 letter called Dear Evan. What has inspired me to act is wanting to be able to look you in the eye and say, when I became aware of the existential threat of climate change, I did all I could. Thank you.
Ooh, thanks, Jill. When I think of like people writing letters to their kids about like what they did for climate change, it gets me right in the feels. Yeah, I hope that everybody really does do this practice because I think it is really powerful, and I hope that you spread the message and get others to practice this too. if there is one thing that I think really unites people all over the world, it is the love of their children and the things that they will do to protect their children, for sure. Do we have any questions over here? I have a question. What are the next steps for Dear Tomorrow and what you're going to do with people's stories?
Yeah, that's actually it's a really great question because it's totally changed because of COVID. So our 2020 strategy was really about, before COVID, was really about art installations and public art, and really we have all these great content, is like getting the messages out into the world, and creating spaces for people to write together, like in community settings. So we've had to kind of put all of that on hold and think about what we're doing in the moment. So what we're really doing now is really thinking about what is the product that we have, what are we offering to people, and how can we strengthen that? And so we're looking at, we're currently looking at redesigning and redeveloping our toolkit, which will be available hopefully in September. So like a new version where people can go to the site and they can say, hey, I want to organize 3 friends, or I want to bring this to my group or organization or my classroom, and they'll have all of the instructions of like how to do it, how to bring this to your community, to create stories. And then once you have stories, you can, you have so much content. There's lots of things you can do like with the content after. So that's what we're up to.
Yeah, that's cool. And if anybody is looking for inspiration, you can go to their the Dear Tomorrow Instagram page or Facebook page and see people's, snippets of people's stories, and they're really, really inspiring. So we have
one last thing. Yeah. We are all the entire collection is available on our website, which is deartomorrow.org. And you can kind of click through each of them. It's like a little box that has like one quote, but if you click on it, it pops up like the whole letter, and you can like scroll through and look through, and there's places that say like, kind of best of, and you can just kind of play around with the site.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. We do have a great question from Julia Beck. Hi, Jules. She would love to integrate this into the educator climate workshops. Julia works for a great organization called Project WET. Any educator or school specific ideas?
So this is really geared towards, we see it as geared towards like 8th grade and above. It's an activity that, children who have a understanding or are starting to understand like what a threat climate change is, and are dealing with kind of anxiety or like uncertainty and want to kind of express that, they can do that. So we've had students in middle school, high school, and undergraduate do the project, and teachers basically have integrated it into their project. And we will have all of those resources in September up on the site where teachers can do, there's 2 kind of different projects that teachers can do to integrate it into their curriculum.
Cool. And I'm not sure the name here, but somebody asked, why doesn't Dear Tomorrow focus on a few countries provided resources are limited?
So I'm based in New York City, and my climate knowledge of my former climate work was really at the national level, like in the U.S. So we've had participation from many different states of groups who have done the project. We've found that there is a universality of the project where people have come to the project and kind of done this in their various contexts. I will say that I'm also involved in this global network of organizations that are parent-led groups working on climate change. And currently there's representatives from 18 countries. So a lot of those groups are also starting to get interested in in the storytelling. So through that network and through other organizers, other leaders, we're doing this project.
Nice. Yeah, I think those connections with other organizations all over the world are really important for us all to work together. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jill. That was amazing. And okay, so our last two presentations were actually pre-recorded so that we could include folks on the other side of the world. So we had some people that are in Madagascar and actually one person who is in Germany. So, but before we get to that, I want to remind you all about our goal of sending 10 women to the Street Business School. And the number there, I believe it was 300, let me bring up this number again, $346 will send one woman through the Street Business School program, giving her the opportunity to triple her income, which is a huge deal. So if you can go over and donate to Street Business School at streetbusinessschool.org/give. And then next we will go on to our next presentation, which is recorded by Annette Witherspoon. Annette is a research associate with Diversity Turn in Land Use Science, which is a transdisciplinary project studying the vanilla industry in Madagascar. So this is really important because it includes social scientists as well as biologists and experts from a variety of backgrounds studying all different aspects of the vanilla industry. In 2013, Annette earned a master's degree in international social sciences. Her master's degree project, titled Post-War Integration, The New Lives of Female Ex-Combatants, focused on the reintegration experiences of former female combatants after the Liberian Civil War. Annette has also worked with NGOs as a development consultant, providing research, planning, design, and implementation support for several development and humanitarian projects in West Africa. So I am going to share my screen here and bring up Annette's presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I am Annette Witherspoon from the University of Göttingen in Germany. Tonight, I'd like to share with you a snapshot of our research project, Diversity Turn in Land Science, that uses the case of
Maureen, it's not very loud.
I will start by telling you why Madagascar and talk to you a little bit about our research group and that we specifically do. I will end by addressing one particular aspect that demonstrates how we are connecting questions of sustainable production and social justice. Well, Madagascar is often associated with rich biodiversity. It is also a very poor country, as we know, but it's also the world's vanilla capital. And vanilla is a very high value crop, currently the second most expensive spice in the world. It is also grown in an agroforestry. This combination presents huge opportunities for biodiversity conservation and for poverty reduction, which makes the Malagasy vanilla sector an ideal site for doing sustainability research. The Diversity Turn project began in 2016 with funding from the Volkswagen Foundation. The project is hosted at the University of Göttingen. However, the research is done in collaboration with the University of Antananarivo and the Regional University Center of the Sava. We also work with the Malagasy National Parks and also with the local government authorities, private sector, civil society, groups. We also work more specifically also with the local communities within the Sava region where the project is based. The Diversity Turn project seeks generally to investigate the social, economic, and ecological value of vanilla production within the region. But we do this also with an intent to integrate more strongly a social justice issue within sustainability research. So we do this within the current context where there is huge pressures on biodiversity. There's also extremely high vanilla prices at the moment, and also the recent changes in the organization of the market, which saw the introduction of contract farming. Using a problem-solving approach, we investigate the bigger research question within 10 working groups, where we address specific research questions and use a range of different qualitative and quantitative methodologies to investigate. I will share with you now briefly some of the topics we address. So again, primarily we look at deforestation and habitat loss and the pressures it puts on biodiversity. We are also comparing land use types, specifically vanilla and rice production. We identify what value these different land use types have for conservation in the region, but also looking at the competition between cash crop and subsistence production, which these land use types also represent. We're also looking at the apparent low levels of income diversification among smallholders. For example, talking about livestock farming and the specific implications they have for questions of food security, for example. We also then look at impacts of the high vanilla prices on the cost of living for producers, but not only producers, also non-producers, and what impact it has on the living conditions and quality of life of different households. Also connected to the high vanilla prices is also the question of insecurity. We've seen numerous cases of insecurity in the news, and they talk a lot about the vanilla theft situation. And this is something that we also investigate. We also look at the difficulties with the implementation of sustainability standards. These standards that have been introduced through labels such as Fair Trade, Rainforest Alliance, and organic in the region. We also look at questions of capacity. So we're looking at the limited capacity among smallholders and treat them as an extension of the insufficient transfer of knowledge, experiences, and skills, but also looking at the formal and informal educational sector. This brings me now closer to my area of research, where I'm investigating power relations among the local actors. And here specifically, I want to address the questions of organizing among producers, which connects sustainable production with questions of participation, power. Producers are the most marginalized actor group in the sector. That's despite the potential of effective producer organizations to counter extreme power imbalances. Producer groups largely remain supported and organized by vanilla buyers. This reinforces power imbalances and limit producers' participation in strategic decision-making processes, while self-organization remains hindered by questions of trust and capacity issues among producers. We'll recommend that for any meaningful transformation to occur, there would need to be long-term interventions that develop producers' capacities, but also scrutinizes the existing systems of patronage and also restore trust among actors. Thank you.
Okay, so if you have questions for Annette, you can post them on the Facebook page, or you can email, find her on Diversity Turn. I will be posting the Diversity Turn Facebook page. And one thing that I can speak to is that it is really difficult for the farmers to organize. They're very, very deep out into the forest, a lot of them. And it's difficult for them to get into the main city centers where they might be able to get information or to organize organizations and things like that. So it's one of those things. It can be difficult to imagine why farmers have such a hard time organizing together until you're there and you see just how spread out everybody is there in the rainforest of Madagascar. So our final presentation, and we're going to get into a little bit of Madagascar tourism here. Our final presentation is a combined effort with Miora Rakotunirina and Miali Razamfinsalama. Miora is an attorney. She's actually here in the US, and she's the founder of an online platform called Zuni Ankizi, which means children's rights. And she uses her connections with lawyers around Madagascar to help people report child abuse and other violations. Miali has a degree in sustainable tourism development and is a photographer who inspires people to travel to Madagascar through her Facebook and Instagram pages. So they're going to show us some photos of people and places around Madagascar and give us a short lesson about Madagascar. And I truly hope that you are inspired to travel there one day. Because it is an amazing place, and tourism is a very important industry, that allows people to make money without, putting extra pressure on natural resources. So I will share my screen again here. Oops, I can figure out.
Madagascar. More than just a cartoon, Madagascar is the fourth largest island in the world, with 592,800 square kilometers and approximately 25 million people.
Antananarivo is the capital city of Madagascar. It is located on the Central Highlands. Two of the main monuments to see are the train station that faces the Independence Avenue and the Queen's Palace, a beautiful edifice overlooking the city.
Street markets have a big part in the Malagasy culture. There are a few grocery stores similar to Giants or Whole Foods in Madagascar, but they are not within everyone's budget. Most of the population grocery shop on a daily basis from merchants in open-air markets.
The first picture shows one of the traditional outfits in Antananarivo. The second one shows people performing the traditional song and dance of the capital. These performances always transfer a deep social message, and the performers never use microphones or other sound systems.
If you want to escape from the city, Mantasua Lake on the left and Ampef, home of the Lily Waterfall, on the right are great getaways. They are both located less than 100 kilometers from Antananarivo city.
Rice is the main food in Madagascar. Each region has its own style of food, but it always includes rice. The people in the rural areas are the main producers of rice. They mostly live in clay houses or unpainted brick houses.
The east coast of Madagascar is the only part of the island that still has a tropical forest. Ramofana Park contains endemic flora and fauna for the adventurous to discover. Ranmafan also has a thermal source and pool which can treat many diseases.
FCE, or Fianarantsoa test, meaning East Coast, is one of the two remaining rail networks in Madagascar. Riding the FCE, trains provides a great opportunity of sightseeing of the beautiful landscape of the East Coast of Madagascar.
As we visit the Fianarantsoa region, it is not rare to see people wearing blankets as their jackets. The weather is chilly all year round, and people just get used to walking around with their blankets to make sure they don't get cold.
On the way to the south of Madagascar, we drive by Isal. On the main road, all you can see are rocky mountains and dry lands or dry grass. But if we go visit the natural reserves, behind the mountains, we can enjoy beautiful walks of nature, such as the natural pool in the picture.
The south of Madagascar is the driest area of the island. It only rains twice a year in some cities. The baobabs are gigantic trees that can survive in this dry climate. This picture shows the Baobab Avenue, a must-see if you travel to Madagascar.
The Zinc of Bemara, also called the Forest Stone, is a natural geological formation. The site is home to an exceptionally large number of endemic species of plants and animals that are found only within extremely small niches within the Zingies. The national park is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
This picture shows the traditional outfits in the southern region of Madagascar. There are several tribes and each of them has their own style, but this is one of the most commonly known. In this picture, they are performing their traditional dance.
Mahajang is a port city in the northwest of Madagascar. It is mostly known for its warm weather all year round. People love to travel to Mahajang to relax and enjoy the long, beautiful beaches. Mahajang also has unique reserves to visit, such as the Red Circuit and Oil Red Mountain.
It is common for the people, especially the ladies, living in the coastal and beach areas to paint their faces with Masonzwan. Not only is this fashionable, but it also protects their skin from the sun. This is a great natural way to remain young-looking.
Diego is a province in the north of Madagascar. It has several natural reserves to visit, including the magnificent Zinc Rouge or Red Zinc and the French Mountain. The mountain used to serve as a base to the French military back in the 20th century. Today, it is a great destination that offers a 360-degree panoramic view to other natural reserves. Nouspe is a very small island on the west coast of Madagascar. It is surrounded by several smaller islands that are homes to a multitude of fauna and flora that are endemic to Madagascar. Nouspe is also known for its production of ylang-ylang.
The west coast of Madagascar offers spectacular sunset views. This picture was taken from the Mont Passo in Nouspe. Mont Passo is an extinct volcano surrounded by 8 crater lakes where we can see unique fish species. Madagascar is the #1 vanilla producer in the world. The island supplies 80% of the world's natural vanilla. Most of the vanilla plantations are located in the humid Sava region in the northeast of Madagascar.
One more important aspect of the Malagasy culture is that children are considered the greatest wealth. Children are their parents' pride and they are often placed above anything else. Mothers would go to work carrying their little baby in their bag all day long.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys are all inspired. More YouTube. Yeah, I hope you guys are all inspired by that presentation. That is it for our evening tonight. I hope that you enjoyed the presentations and that you learned something. Let's see, I think, do we have an update on our fundraiser? It looks like as of the last update for the fundraiser, we were at about $150, but you can keep donating for the rest of the evening going to streetbusinessschool.org/give and sending a woman to business school. If you have any questions, please feel free to post to the Facebook event page. We'll continue discussions there. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much to all of our amazing speakers for sharing their great work. And everybody have a great night.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thanks, Maureen. Thanks, everybody.